This is day 2 of section 2.4 on writing linear equations. The main focus of this part of section 2.4 is write an equation of lines when we're told the lines are parallel or perpendicular. Starting with parallel lines, we know lines are parallel when they never intersect, they never cross each other. And the reason they never cross each other is because they have the same slope. They're moving up and over a consistent amount. Here's some examples of lines that are parallel. All these lines have a slope of 3, so we can see it here with the line and slope intercept form, here with a line and point slope form. And if we rearrange this standard form equation into slope intercept form, we would see that also as a slope of 3. Perpendicular lines, on the other hand, have opposite reciprocal slopes. Opposite means positive and negative. Reciprocal means we flip the fractions upside down. So here we have 3/5, opposite reciprocal, one's positive, one's negative, and the fraction is flipped, so negative 5/3. Here we're asked to write an equation for a line that's parallel to a given line and knowing that it contains a specific point. So the fact that it's parallel to this line tells us that the slope will be the same as the one in that line. So the slope is 2/7. Okay, we also know that it contains this point here, 11, -4, and it doesn't specify which equation form it wants this to be in. So we have a point, we have a slope, so it would be easiest to put this into point slope form. Okay, we're just going to plug everything into this equation here. Remember that the y comes first, and we're plugging in with those minus signs, so it ends up being the opposite of these 2 points. X comes second, and then we take this slope, and that goes right before this parentheses. Okay, we're going to have a plus in the beginning there, and ends up the opposite of what we have up in our point. We had a positive 11 and it ends up as a negative inside the equation. It was a -4, ends up as a positive in the equation. Now let's say it wants us to take that answer and convert it into standard form. And we're going to do this 2 different ways. The first way is the intuitive way. It's the way that I expect that you would want to do it. And as a first step, let's say we want to get rid of these parentheses. So 2/7 times both of these numbers. We're going to be dealing with a lot of fractions this way. All right, so we have 2/7 x. Now when we do this, we have top times top, bottom times bottom, 22/7. Now we're going to need to subtract 4 here. Okay, and when we subtract 4, we're going to have to turn that into a common denominator. So really we're subtracting, once it turns into a 7 on the bottom, 28/7, since that's really equal to 4. Okay, and that's going to give us, subtract the numerators, they're both negative, so they combine, -50/7. Now this is our slope-intercept form of the equation. Okay, standard form, remember it's ax plus by equals c. We want the x and the y on both sides, and we want all integers. Okay, so at this point we're going to take this 2/7 and we're going to subtract it to the other side. All right, giving us this, -2/7 x plus y equals -57. Okay, getting closer. So at this point, we have everything in the right spot. We just don't have all integers. So we want to get rid of all these fractions. There's 7s underneath a couple of these fractions, so let's multiply that by that 7. We also want this x to be a positive, and right now it's a negative. So let's multiply everything by a -7. So this gets multiplied by everything in this equation here, and we get our answer. 2x minus 7y equals 50. Let's take another look at that problem. I'm going to show you how to do it a different way. In my opinion, it's a lot easier because we don't have to deal with all those fractions like we had to do in the previous problem. So the main issue is that we have this 2/7 here. Okay, in particular, that's 7 on the bottom. So let's start as a first step multiplying by 7. That's supposed to be a multiplication symbol there, but you guys get it. All right, so we're doing times 7 on the right side, and when we do that, these 7s are going to cancel out. Okay, on the left side, we're putting a 7 times that whole side, so we end up with this. Okay, the 7s here are canceled, but we still have this 2 on the top, so it's 2 times that whole parentheses. On the left, we're multiplying that whole side by 7, since we multiplied by the right by 7. Now we're allowed to do this. We can multiply the right side by anything as long as we do the same thing to the left side. Okay, and we can do it with any operation. We can add things to the right side. We could square it. We could square root it. We can do anything we want to an equation as long as we do the same thing to both sides. All right, so at this point, we have parentheses on both sides. Let's get rid of these. 7y plus 28 equals 2x minus 22 minus 28 gives us this. Okay, now we want to keep this x positive. So instead of moving that to the left side, I'm going to say, let's do minus 7y to put this on this side, and then move this over here. Minus 50, oh, plus 50, my bad, plus 50. Okay, so at this point, we have this 50 equals 2x minus 7y. This is the same thing we had on the previous page. It was just written backwards, 2x minus 7y on the left equals 50. So we get the same answer. We just avoided all that addition of fractions, multiplication by fractions. And the reason was because we got rid of that fraction right as a first step by multiplying by 7. For this problem, we want to find the equation that's perpendicular to the given line, meaning we want to take the slope from this equation and we want to find the opposite reciprocal. Opposite meaning switch the sign, reciprocal meaning flip it upside down. So 4/3 becomes negative 3/4. Once we have this slope, we're going to take that and pair it with the point that it gives us. And since it's not specifying any form that it wants it in, we're just going to pick the easiest one, which is point slope form. Okay, plug everything in, simplify it, and we get our answer. Lastly, we're going to switch this to slope-intercept form. Unfortunately, there's no way to avoid fractions here. We're going to need to distribute to get rid of these parentheses. Okay, so when we do that, remember we're going to do top times top, bottom times bottom, and that gives us negative 18/4. Okay, this we could simplify, so I'm going to do that here. And since I simplified that to 9/2, I also made this into a fraction with a common denominator. So I made 8 into 16/2. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, I'm going to add it to the other side. So plus 16/2 plus 16/2. And here's our answer.